Welcome to Coruzant Technologies, home of the Digital Executive Podcast. Do you work in emerging tech, working on something innovative, maybe an entrepreneur? Apply to be a guest at www.coruzant.com/brand. Welcome to the Digital Executive. Today's guest is Alex Roy Rajan. Alex Roy Rajan is the founder and CEO of SalesboxAI, a go-to-market advertising platform designed to drive pipeline and revenue growth through AI-powered engagement. With a vision to transform how companies detect demand and orchestrate buying groups, he built SalesboxAI to automate pipeline creation and make revenue generation smarter, faster, and more precise. His approach emphasizes practical AI innovation, measurable outcomes, and scalable systems that empower teams to operate with greater clarity and confidence across dynamic, fast-evolving markets. Well, good afternoon, Alex. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hi, Alex. I appreciate you again jumping on, making the time. I know you're hailing out of New York today. I'm in Kansas City, so just an hour apart to get this podcast going. And if you don't mind, Alex, jumping into your first question, you founded SalesboxAI to automate a unified AI go-to-market platform, bringing together advertising, lead generation, first-party intent data, and intelligent orchestration. What was fundamentally broken in traditional go-to-market strategies that pushed you to build this platform?
That's a great question. So back in the day when I started SalesboxAI, the core realization was that the traditional go-to-market system was just inefficient. It was actually structurally fragmented. So there were fundamentally three things which were broken. Firstly, it was a lead-centric model. So instead of what we call as an account-centric model with buying groups, it was very lead-centric back in the day. And signals were not actionable. So while we had signals captured, it was very difficult to operationalize. And thirdly, the execution was very manual. So what I mean by that is one had to export lists, upload it to different platforms. You had to manually launch campaigns. It had to be manually assigned to SDR teams who would then manually call. So this actually slowed companies down, and where, speed was the name of the game. So the goal of SalesboxAI was to move from a campaign-driven to a signal-driven platform where you can execute much faster.
Really like that. Moving that from that campaign-driven model to that signal-driven model. I really appreciate that. And you talked about that. There was a big need in the market. It was structurally fragmented. You talked about the three things that it was and needed to be improved was a lead-centric model. The signals were not actionable, and execution obviously was very manual. And I really appreciate those insights and how you're making this a better platform for everybody. Alex, SalesboxAI focuses on a unified platform for a complete go-to-market using AI agents. How does AI change the way companies go to market? I understand your AI agents work together. Can you explain that concept?
Sure. Yeah. So it's all about turning data into action. So SalesboxAI agents help you orchestrate a signal-driven and proactive approach to reaching prospects at the right time with the right message, compared to the traditional reactive and manual campaign-based approach. So with Salesbox, you can have a set of specialized agents. So for example, you have an intent agent that's listening for intent signals. You have an outreach agent that's crafting personalized outreach messages. You have an advertising agent that allocates ad spend and decides whom to be showing the ads to. And of course, you have an orchestration agent that is coordinating the actions between these agents. So each of these agents have a certain level of controlled autonomy that you're able to provide, and they are collaborative. So the net result of this is that, you have an always on signal-driven revenue engine that's running for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I like how you kind of broke apart the various agents. There's agent level orchestration that goes on, but you're turning this data into action with your agents by them helping with a proactive and action-based approach. They're listening, collaborative. Again, it's an orchestration model of multiple agents doing various tasks to maximize the effort and really dial in that sales. So I appreciate that. Alex, a unified AI go-to-market platform sounds powerful, but companies fear losing personalization. How do you balance automation with meaningful human-centric engagement?
That's a great question, right? So when we talk about human-centric engagement, we have to unpack this a little bit, right? So being human is not just about biology, right? It's about, we have to look at what the qualities are. So you have empathy, you have reflection, you have creativity, moral reasoning. So it's about, how do we help marketers amplify those human traits using an agent? So that, the prospect feels understood, they feel then they are being helped and not sold to, etc. So traditionally, we have these different personas and we optimize for scale and relevance less. Whereas with the agents, we are able to kind of amplify those very human traits that we talked about and do it exactly like how the marketer really wishes to, but never had the resources to do.
That's awesome. And it is important that we keep that. And I know we always have humans in the loop, but AI is getting better as far as these agents to really mimic or as close as we can get that human-centric engagement at the agent level. But we do know that agents now can understand the customer sentiment. Obviously, as you mentioned, providing that listening, that empathy, that relevance, so that it is relatable to the customer. So I appreciate that. And Alex, as we look ahead here in our last question, how do you see a unified AI native go-to-market platform reshaping revenue organizations over the next 5 years? And what skills will modern chief revenue officers and chief marketing officers need to stay competitive?
Sure. Yeah. The biggest change is that revenue teams today they operate across disconnected tools, whereas in the future you have a unified AI native platform that becomes a single revenue brain, right, for the company. And it's actually ingesting the signals across the entire customer lifecycle. It's predicting opportunities and risks, orchestrating actions automatically, and learning continuously from outcomes. So what this means for CMOs and CROs, the leaders today, is that how do you transition from becoming an AI assisted leader to an AI native leader, as I would like to mention it. And it all starts with AI literacy. So it's not about technical AI literacy, but it's more strategic. Leaders don't need to build models, right? But they must understand and they must have a way to question the AI outputs themselves, which means they need to understand how AI makes predictions. They need to understand what are the limitations, what does bias mean, when, and moreover, most important, when human judgment overrides the AI, right? So I would bucket this under the AI literacy bucket. And then as leaders, we need to be really good at orchestrating AI agents and humans together. So, and workflows. So there's like 3 parts to it. What is automated? What stays human? What are the escalation points? How do you have governance and control around it? So our skills around this area needs to improve. And lastly, I would say the decision velocity as a leader. So AI, as you are aware, compresses time. And so you need to stay competitive. You need to make those decisions much faster. There's that learning loop. You need to be faster in learning and adapting. So yeah, so as leaders, you need to be able to stay always on and adapt based on and take decisions faster, I would say.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Absolutely. Leaders need to be ready to adapt, make decisions faster, of course. And you talked about current revenue streams, right, across the workforce within companies. They're using different systems, disparate systems. However, we know in the future, agents will be able to connect with each other and work and share this information to be more efficient and make better decisions, of course. Moving from that AI assisted to that AI native environment, you talked about that. And leaders don't need to just build models, but really understand the AI language and learning to orchestrate these AI systems. And I think that's really important. I appreciate that. Alex, it was such a pleasure having you on today, and I look forward to speaking with you real soon.
Yeah, I mean, it was an absolute pleasure to be on the show, and thank you.
Bye for now.